Well, guys, it's Sunday morning the next day, and I came down here last night because I procured a key from the auto parts store. I did find that they did have in their assortment a 3/4 inch by 1/4 inch Woodruff key, and I thought, oh great, I got the right size key now. Well, needless to say, I came down here, and much to my chagrin, I discovered that when I put this key in, it doesn't stick up very much at all. So I figured, well, then I'm still on the wrong track here as far as the key goes. But now, looking at it, I see that apparently it's sticking up far enough to key the gear to the shaft. But the problem I'm having is that the Woodruff key is pushing back as I try and put the gear on, which is causing the Woodruff key to rise up out of the slot. And that's kind of a pain. And so that's why it kind of wedged on there this morning. So now I got to get a puller. Alright, so I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually down so far, it's actually flush. So I don't even know if I had the thing lined up on the keyway correctly. And then when I level this off, right there, I'm going to measure using the little depth gauge doohickey. Trying to get that as flat as possible. That feels about right there. 2.5 thousandths is all that's sticking up, so that's not going to really do much at all. So back to the drawing board. Oh, by the way, I was so happy when I got that Woodruff key assortment, because I said, oh, that's going to save me a lot of money over the years. Well, you betcha. You know how much this was at the auto parts store with tax? $1.24. $1.24 for one Woodruff key, which, by the way, I now can't use. Although yesterday I spent about at least 20 minutes going through every compartment in that assortment and sorting it out. I got sick of reaching in and finding, wrong sizes in the wrong drawers. I guess over the years people would take one out and then realize that it wasn't the right size and drop it in the wrong place. So I literally took out every single one and sorted them all correctly. And what I ended up finding out and realizing was that there's actually, by design, there's two empty. It says right here, these two spaces have been left for your miscellaneous keys. Well, this is where my 3/4 one is going to go now. So back to my original plan. I'm going to use the 7/8 one, and I'm going to modify it. So, trying to make sure it's in the slot. Since it's a curved bottom slot, once it's in there, I'm eyeballing it to see if it's level. At that point, it should be. So I'm going to use this as a kind of a straight edge. And now what I should have is, I should have an OD here equal to the OD of the shaft here. No, that's a shoulder. I should have an OD here that will be able to fit through. This is more of a right-handed job right here. Stand on that side. 1.440, 1.468. It just goes to show you, I'm thinking I've got that in there level and I don't. If I go right in the middle, that should be the true what it's going to be, which is weird. It's 1.440. Why is that 1.440 there and there and so much higher at the back? 1.450. Rising out of the back. Don't mind me, I'm just talking to myself. Oh, so, yeah, I said the bore. What I meant to say was it should be right here. It should match this. Yeah, that's 1.425. That's 1.425. So there's no way this is going to go on to here. Even if I ignored the fact that this is hanging out here, I'm still going to have to do something else. Question is, I can't tell whether or not I'm in the center of that trough. It's amazing how easily that gets stuck in there. Wouldn't be surprised at all if the damage at the end of this shaft, right near the keyway that I'm seeing, was caused by all the time that this was run with A, the wrong size keyway in there, and B, the gear not even fully in position. Well, there's my big part of my problem why this wasn't going in the keyway very well, but it's still going to be proud, I can tell just by looking at it. .460. Why did I say this was? Because this isn't going to change. I shouldn't have to remeasure this if I could remember the number in my head, but I don't. Now that's interesting. That says 1.418. 420. 27 thousandths too high. What I'm going to probably end up doing is grinding this to fit. I want to see something. That almost looks to me like this is not going to the bottom of that slot. It sure as heck looks like that's the one they had in there. .280. So if 280 is the depth of the slot, and this is 363, then 83 thousandths should be sticking up when I put this in if this is sitting at the bottom. 160. Yeah, 160. That's not going to the bottom. I don't want to bang on the very light tapping I was doing should be fine, but I don't want to really use any more force on the top of this keyway to try and get this in. So it'll deform the top of the keyway and make it more difficult for me to get it into the gear. But let me just try and see if I can't put some clamping pressure on it and see if that actually moves in any. Let's see if that did anything. Heck yeah. 93 thousandths. Now we're getting somewhere. I can do better than that. Well, here's a shock. Gone through the hardware that's left over and don't have anything for this. For starters, got this thick washer and nut left. That washer fits the shaft nice, but it won't do anything as far. It's actually the OD of this washer is smaller than the OD of the shaft, so it's not going to do anything to hold that on. And since I had it right here, I'm confident that that's actually, this thick washer goes here and this nut goes here. That's the last piece of the puzzle. We'll hold the cover of the quick change. No, what is this? This isn't the quick change gearbox. This is, well, whatever. It's like a pre-transmission, pre-gearbox for the quick change, a gear reduction unit, whatever you want to call it. That's right, you can call it whatever you want. Matter of fact, if you have a good creative name for this, go ahead and put it in the comments. Alright. I'm going to go get a wrench and tighten this before I completely forget about it. Alright, so here's the problem. I went through all of my washers that I have, you know, that have ODs about this size and smaller. And this is actually the same OD as the shaft, and it fits on the threaded rod that's sticking out. So this would be perfect if the OD was just a little bit bigger. So this one I can bolt on there, but it's not going to do anything. The gear could actually go over it, possibly. So I need something with an OD bigger than that. The problem is, as I search through all my washers with ODs larger than this, the holes get a lot larger. So that's not going to work. So what I need is, ideally, I need kind of like these fender washers here. Okay, something like this that I can then drill out the center. But the fender washers by design are very thin, so I was going to double these up and then drill them out, and I might still do that if I have to. I figured I'd just take a look and see whether or not there's anything in here that I forgot about. These all, look at that monster. These all look pretty much like they're going to be... Oh, oh! It's another possibility if I drill that one out. What's nice is that's nice and thick. This is cheesy. That's an old one that's been around for a while. That's a newer stamped piece of crap. Alright, this is a little thinner, but it's better than those. And this might actually be a... This might be a fit, if anything. Well, let me see. See how sloppy that is. Alright, so that's going to be my washer once I modify it. So what I did was I pushed the washer on there, I pushed it up against the key, and then I pushed on it and rotated it, scratched a little arc line right there. So I know that's the top of my keyway, and so I know my notch has to go down below that by a little bit. Not the full depth of the keyway that's sticking out because it's got that little curve to it, so, but close to it. I'd say probably about there. But I don't want to fire up the grinder right now because it's probably about 7:30 in the morning on Sunday. Alright, so I'm going to get ready to modify this washer. What I did was I scribed a line pretty much perpendicular to that arc line, and as close to the center hole as I could eyeball it. And it doesn't have to be critical. And what I'm going to do is, I've got a drill bit just slightly larger than the key, and I'm going to drill a hole, let's see, about there. Okay, so there's my automatic center punch hole. There we go. Alright. Now there's a slot, a little V-groove on one of the jaws of this vise, and I can put that right in there. And actually, to make my life easier, I'm going to actually line this up with that V-groove right there so I can see that easier. And I want a packing to go underneath it and support it on this end, because there isn't a V-groove on that end of the vise. Alright, so now I'm going to drill this in the drill press. So I'm going to use my little vise here. There's a V-groove on this side, and that sits right in the V-groove. There's a V-notch here. I line that V-notch up with my line there, just because that's a lot easier to see than that. And there's no V-groove on this side, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a size of packing to go underneath here that's going to be the perfect size to support this on this edge. Alright, I'm going to slap that in the drill press and drill the hole. Alrighty, so there's my setup. I got one bolt clamping down the vise. This is such thin metal, it's not that big of a deal. Obviously I could use a higher speed with this diameter drill, but I'm not going to bother. And the battery's dying. Alright, so the battery died before when I was drilling the hole in this, but I did end up finishing drilling the hole. I'm going to have to deburr it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my my newly acquired dirt cheap Do More die grinder with this little cutoff wheel. And I'm going to basically just cut 2 slots right down to meet the hole, and that'll give me hopefully a pretty decent. Now the only thing louder than this die grinder running is this die grinder cutting. So I've got my hearing protection, and I'm also going to grab my face shield, because if that disc suddenly decides to disintegrate, you know, safety glasses will keep pieces out of your eyes, but you still don't really want shards of that composite disc stuck in your face. So I'm a little off kilter from the circle that I put in it, but it's actually not too bad. I'm going to open this all the way up so I could remount it in the vise to hold it, so I could deburr it with the same disc, but I could just do it this way. Look at that. It's just a tiny nick, but still, it's the whole idea that this thing really didn't have anything wrong with it other than being dirty, and lived its long life in service for who knows how many different people, and I come along and put a nick in it. Alright, I think I'm going to take a file and just clean this up just a little bit more. Why bother? Nobody's going to see it. Well, I just tried it and it doesn't fit. What happens is, because I've got this slot actually just a hair over from where the hole is, so it's hitting on this little edge right here. So I'm just going to try and make the slot a little bit wider. Alright, so here's my new makeshift washer, and the notch fits right around the key stock like it should. And the threads don't go actually far enough down, so if I would tighten this nut on right now, that would actually still be loose. So I've got one more washer I'm going to stick on here as a spacer. And now I could put this nut back on. This nut was with the other hardware and it's perfect size to fit this, so I'm assuming this is the correct one. So let's see, if I I did this right, should be able to. That should be disengaged. So I should be able to start this right now, and none of that gear train should be running. Now, pull this out. Right there, that should be the drive engaged position. Reversed it. The startup current draw is high enough that it actually causes the ballast on the fluorescent light over the lathe to flutter.